On this episode of Pandemic Hair, we are cutting our own hair. The first thing you have to do is get that hair moist. Wet it down, use a comb, and section the hair that you want to keep longer than the sides up and out of the way.
I know that they're going to start teaching this in beauty school.
Once we clip that hair, we want to do a fast double check to make sure all of the hair we want to keep long is protected. All right, starting with a number 2 guard, we're going to work with the grain into our beard. Before we continue, I'd like to mention that this haircut is inspired by one of Negan's many looks in The Walking Dead. Let's go ahead and get the feel for the clipper first, working vertically, up, and then out. We're not following the head shape.
There are no mistakes in the world of bowl cuts. No mistakes.
Once we've gotten a feel for the clipper, let's go ahead and work along the parietal ridge and remove all of that hair on the side. Move the ear out of the way and go up and over the ear with, again, the number 2 guard.
A few moments later.
I got this mirror in back so I can kind of see what's going on, but it gets a little tricky.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Returning to the original side, notice how we dip ever so slightly as we move from the side into the back.
And we just go right on down the deal, dude. Swing.
We're working with the head shape, maintaining length in the crown. If I were to follow the head shape all the way up, I would cut that crown area too short and that hair would stick up and out. For cleanliness and consistency, don't forget to brush over your clipper work. Now that we've finished with the number 2 guard, we're going to switch to the number 1. And then for the refinement of this section, switching to the trimmer.
More moments later.
That worked good.
With, again, the 1 guard, we're going to work with the grain and do a little taper into the beard.
"20 minutes later."
Now with the 1 guard, we're going to position the clipper to just rock ever so slightly up and out.
Soften that corner. That's the goal. Soften the corner.
We do want to soften the corner.
Upstroke, depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, is where it gets a little tricky.
So just ever so slightly in, up, and out. Do not use a scooping motion. I would strongly suggest practicing a few times with the clipper off just to get the gentleness and a little feel so you don't create lines. Now working with the trimmer, same idea. Notice how we're not pressing the clipper. We are lightly working up with the clipper inverted. This one takes a little bit of practice.
Much, much, much later.
Going with the grain, just to tidy up everything.
Bam, downward angle, because it's mirrors, so everything's backwards.
And now we're ready to move on to the top. So drop the clip, give it a little bit of moisture, and comb that through. We're going to section from ear to ear as if you were wearing headphones. The hair and back, we need to measure. We want to keep some length.
Oh, did you really think I was gonna cut my hair?
So, with the assistance of the mirror, give yourself a gauge. Maintaining that length, cut horizontally.
Very close to the fingers. Not cutting. We'll go with the big kahuna.
Another tip, use scissors that haven't been sitting outside for 5 years.
Take the remaining hair and comb it back to the original section.
No one can get a haircut like this unless maybe in a mental institute.
And cut horizontally, avoiding the fingers.
A few inches later.
And we're going to do a little bit of slide cutting with a texturizing shear. This is completely optional. If you do not have texturizing shears at home, do not use your normal shears to attempt this. You will take out way too much hair. You see there's a little bit of a point in back. So we're going to get rid of it using a razor.
By the fingers. Very close to the fingers. I like it.
Just a little spot check to make sure everything's even.
Much, much, much later.
The secret to perfection is imperfection.
A little bit of marrying. A little bit of marrying.
Now we're ready to move on to the style. We take grooming spray from Maverick by Paul Mitchell for the wet to dry style. That's going to give us a little bit of memory and prep us for the finishing product. Notice how the brush and the blow dryer move together at the same time.
Many unbearable hours later.
We're going to be using grooming cream once again by Maverick from Paul Mitchell. Some finishing touches with the shears, a little bit of point cutting. Just ironing out any little deficiencies that we left during the clipper portion of the haircut. And that is the NEGAN-inspired men's self haircut. Now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.